Welcome back to another episode of the student section. This is episode 1 of the second season, basically. Um, Real quick before we get started, yes, I did take a little hiatus, about, my guys, like 2 months maybe. Took a 2 month break only because I was just getting kind of bored. Uh, it was the off season, no basketball to talk about. I was basically just making up topics at that point. We just finished up the draft. I guess I could have talked about summer league with the NBA, talk about training camp, all the stuff that's been going on. My passion is college basketball. That's what I'm here for. And don't get me wrong, I love making NBA videos. I just think the problem with the NBA right now is that there's so many podcasts, so many talk shows, so many YouTube channels. They all just kind of end up regurgitating the same ideas. There's not much creativity going on right now, and I didn't want to just continue to copy everybody else because everyone's already talked about everything. There's not much more to talk about. So that is that. So yes, student section. For those of you who don't know, this is a podcast all about college basketball. While I do cover a little bit of NBA, I do have an NBA playlist and a college playlist, so I make both videos. Primarily, I focus on college basketball just because there's not much college content out right now. And even more specifically, I will pretty much only do SEC college basketball unless it is like a March Madness thing. So there's that. It's just a little introduction. And just one more thing, I did technically change my name of this podcast. I changed it from the student section podcast. Hold on. From the student section podcast to just the student section, just because I don't like the connotation of the word podcast anymore. I feel like it's a pretty corny thing that like everyone's making podcasts, everyone's talking about. People just make podcasts all the time now. That has kind of become like a corny, cringy thing. So I'm just a YouTube channel now. It's not a podcast anymore because I also agree. I think that is a little blown out and kind of overplayed and corny. So I'm not a podcast anymore, which means that's also like a good thing for the viewer because I know I had a couple people talk about how they didn't like the longer form content because some of my videos were reaching an hour long, 45 minutes. So hopefully now I'm able to make the videos a little bit shorter. It might be kind of hard once season starts. There's going to be a lot to talk about. But like this video, for example, I'm going to try and make this video as quick as possible. I'm not going to rush through it. I'm still going to cover everything. I just don't want my videos to be 40 minutes long. I prefer them to be closer to 30 minutes and a little bit less. Excuse me. That was my Xbox remote. So yeah, without further ado, I think I'm just going to jump straight into it. I do just want to preface, I guess so, one more thing. So I am going to be, just to kind of give you guys an idea of how the flow of this video is going to go. I am ranking all the teams in the SEC. I'm ranking their off-season moves. I'm not predicting how good they're going to be this season. I'm ranking just basically how good they were last year and then what they did on that offseason. So how, if they got better, if they got worse, if they made some different moves. That's what I did right there. And I will be doing it in alphabetical order. I'll go over that once more. But so if you want to tune in, if you want to see what my opinion is on your favorite team, or if you want to catch up on what your favorite team did this offseason, or maybe you want to keep track of what your rival did this offseason, that's the point of this. So I will be leaving timestamps in the description and they will be embedded into the video. So you can skip forward to your favorite team. Feel free to do that. Obviously, I can't force you not to. But I did put a lot, and I mean a lot of research into this video just because there's 16 teams and there's no media outlet that shows all the teams and they're what each team did. So I pretty much had to go through, look at everybody's transfer portal, their incoming freshman class. Some teams didn't even tell you like a lot of teams have their own news, like their own news publication. Some teams didn't even tell you which players they had in and out. So I really had to dig through. So there's a good 3 or 4 hours of research into this, not including all of the designs for the screens I'm going to display for each team just to make it a little easier for you guys to view. So without further ado, we are now finally moving into these off-season rankings. Okay, so the first team we are covering is Alabama. Some of their transfers in is Houston Mallett, Chris Youngblood, Aiden Holloway, and Clifford Amorui. I will figure out how to pronounce that name once the season starts. I don't know how to pronounce the last name right now. Amorui. Maybe that's it. So, and then some other people they brought in is Darian Reed, Aiden Sherrill, Nas Cunningham, and Labaron Labaron Philin, another guy. I'm going to learn how to pronounce his name. So, in terms of players they brought in, my opinion of big, like, impact players, you could say, is going to be Houston Mallett and Clifford O. Don't know how to pronounce the last name, just Clifford O. They do obviously they have an amazing freshman class, but for this video, I'm not going to really consider freshmen to be impact players unless I really think they're going to come in and just immediately have an impact role, which I don't think there's any. There might be a few. I actually do know a couple that will have that role coming up. I know Darian Reed might end up having that kind of role, maybe Aiden Sherrill as well. Not so much Nas Cunningham and LeBaron, don't know how to pronounce his name. I will learn, though. I promise Alabama fans I will learn. So that is the players that Alabama brought in, as you can see on this list. And the players they lost is Chris Parker, Rylan Griffin, David Cosby Jr., Sam Walters, Nick Pringle, and then Mo Wag, I don't know. And then also Aaron Estrada graduated. So he's out of eligibility, so he's also no longer on this team. And then impact players that are leaving the team, in my opinion, I put Rylan Griffin, Sam Walters, Nick Pringle, and Aaron Estrada. Nick Pringle, not as much, but definitely Rylan Griffin, Sam Walters, and Aaron Estrada. Those were pretty big pieces for them last year. So with all that said, the grade I gave them was an A. I gave them an A just because their ability to keep Mark Sears and like just the fact that he didn't go to the league is a huge plus. He was in running for Player of the Year last year. He's going to be in running for Player of the Year this year. They have a really good incoming freshman class and really good incoming just transfers in general. The only reason they don't really have an A+ is just because they lost Aaron Estrada and Rylan Griffin. They lost him to the portal, so that's a tough loss. But they did have a really good offseason. So moving on, this is the other part of this video. I will also be doing a tier ranking. Hopefully that is up on the screen now. But because, I just ranked them as an A, they are moving into that A spot. I'm only going to have this at the end of each team's assessment just so you guys can kind of keep track of where I put each team so you don't have to go back through the video. So if you really wanted to, you could skip to the end of the video and look at where I put each team so you can kind of get an idea of what I ranked them. And then if you want to go back and look at individual teams, you can do that as well. So that is Alabama. Moving on, we have my team, the Arkansas Razorbacks. This was a really big offseason for us. Just there's a couple of teams, pretty much all the teams that got new coaches. So that is Arkansas, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky. They had really big off seasons. Oh, sorry about that. So with Arkansas, players they brought in, DJ Wagner, Jonas Adu, Adu Thiero, Janelle Davis, Zavonimir Visic, and Melo Sanchez. Some freshmen they brought in also was Boogie Flan, Carter Knox, and Billy Richmond, which are all 5 stars. Amazing. So as an Arkansas fan, we don't really get off seasons like this. We don't really get freshman class like this, except for the 2022 year, 2022 to 23 year, which had Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh, and Nick Smith Jr., and a few other guys. So this is amazing. We don't normally get transfers coming in like this. We don't get freshmen coming in like this. And, part of that is the obvious. We do have a new coach. We have Coach Calipari. I don't know. That just blanked my mind. I don't know if I have him on the picture I have up on the screen, the graphic. I don't know if I have him on here. I think I did just because it was funny. If he is on the graphic, obviously I'm just trying to be funny. But yes, I don't have the graphic in front of me, so I don't know what I put on there. So those are the incoming players. For impact people, I put Jonas Adu, Janelle Davis. I think DJ Wagner could have a glow up season. His season last year wasn't the best, so you can't expect too much out of him. Adu Thiero is just a role player. He's a really good role player. Zavonimir Avicic didn't show too much, and Melo Sanchez is like a 3-star or something. So not much expected out of him. I think Boogie Flane is either going to be our starting or 6th man. I think he is starting. I'm not sure though. Carter Knox is really good. Billy Richmond really good. It's just they're freshmen. It's kind of hard to say that they're going to be impact players because we don't know. And in terms of out, it's literally we kept one player from last year. So the outs, you can see it's a long list. We lost more players than we brought in. It's whatever. So outs, we have Caleb Battle, Tremont Mark, Layden Blocker, Devo Davis, Bay Fall, Joseph Pinion, Kenyon Menefield, and then Denijay Harris. And then graduated, we lost L. Ellis, Jeremiah Davenport, Makai Mitchell, Chandler Lawson, and Jalen Graham. That's a lot of players. We also lost a walk-on, but it's a walk-on. Shout out if you're watching. I forgot your name. That's awkward. He's not going to be watching this. I'm chilling. But yeah, in terms of impact players that we lost, I put Caleb Faddle and Tremont Mark as they were our leading scorers last year. Leighton Blocker is a really good freshman, and I can't wait to see what he does over at DePaul. Devo Davis didn't really have the best year. Bay Fall didn't have the best year. He's going to be over at Kansas State. So look out for that. Joseph Pinion. All the other guys are just all right. Jeremiah Davenport, whatever. But the main guys is just going to be Caleb Faddle and Tremont Mark. Tremont Mark is over at Texas now. Caleb Faddle's at Gonzaga. Both amazing scorers. I'm going to be keeping track of them all year. And if you don't watch Arkansas, you should keep track of them. Look over at Texas, see what Tremont is doing. Those are the players we lost. We lost a lot of players, and we got a good amount back. I gave Arkansas an A-. I know maybe it feels like a little bit of an overkill, but we had the second best transfer class. We had the number one incoming freshman class, at least in terms of the SEC. I think we had second in all of college basketball, but we have the first best freshman class, second best transfer class. Just a really good overall thing. The only problem I have is that we literally only kept one scholarship player from last year, and that is Trevin Brazil. We have a new coach, one of the best coaches in terms of recruiting and just on-court coaching in all of college basketball. So that's a nice addition. But I did give us the A- instead of just the regular A, because with it being a completely new team, we literally kept one player from last year. There's still going to be a little bit of a gelling period at the first half of the season, so I'm not expecting us to do super great in the first half of the season, but I think we could have a really, really good second half, and plus Coach Calla always has one of the best offenses. It'll be fun to watch. He even said he's looking more towards playing a defensive style of basketball. We'll see how that goes, but yeah, so just for the notes I put, we lost everyone except for Brazil. Second best signee class. Okay, I already covered all that. So Arkansas, I gave them an A-, which puts them also in the A tier for this tier ranking. Moving on to the next team, we have Auburn. So just their players they brought in was J.P. Pegs. I think is how you pronounce the last name. Maybe it's J.P. Pegs or Pegas. Don't know. I'll also learn that last name. They brought in Miles Kelly and Jaheim Hudson. For freshmen, they brought in Todd Pettiford and then Ja'Kai Howard. Really, they're not bad incoming people. I love J.P. Pegs out of Furman. He had the little, not Cinderella run, but I think he hit the game winner last season in the March Madness tournament. They had a decent little run. He was their best player, I would say by far. So yeah, and then I also put so J.P. Pegs is the only guy I put as a impact guy. I think Todd Pettiford could potentially do that. I'll get more into that here in a second, but I think he could potentially be an impact player just because of their kind of lack of guards they have right now. They lost a lot of guards, which brings me to their out players. They lost Aiden Holloway, Trey Donson, and Katie Johnson to the portal, which are all guards, pretty much all point guards too. They also lost Jalen Williams to graduation and Leor Berman to graduation. Jalen Williams is a big impact player they lost, and I put Katie Johnson as well as an impact player they lost just because both of these guys were good scorers. Katie Johnson ran the offense most of the time. Jalen Williams was, I think, their second or third highest scorer. Trey Donson was all right, a nice little bench piece. Aiden Holloway, we know he had a decent freshman season, not the best. He had a good like pre-SEC play. He had a really good pre-conference play, but then once we got into conference play and later, he wasn't really good anymore. I put their grade as a C because while yes, both of their incoming freshmen are 5 stars, I'm not very high on them because Todd Pettiford is a shorter guard. I think he's like 6 foot, maybe 6'1". Those of you who don't know, Bruce Pearl, the head coach of Auburn, always has short guards. Just last year, Aiden Holloway, Trey Donson, Katie Johnson are all super short guards. They have guys like, I can't remember the names. But if you look at their alumni from the recent years, not even just alumni, just players that played there that are now in the NBA, they're all shorter guys. I can't remember their names right now, but they had one guy. You can look it up if you want. They always have guys that are like 6'1" or under for their point guard, which I don't like that coaching style because it really limits their offense unless they're just an absolute elite scorer, which I do think Todd Pettiford is. But with him being a freshman, a short freshman in such a big physical league, I could see him struggling. But I could see him kind of projecting to be like a Wade Taylor kind of Josh Hubbard. He could have a Josh Hubbard freshman season like he had last year. Or he could have like an Aiden Holloway freshman season where he just struggles to find his way and kind of develop into a Wade Taylor the fourth like style of player, just short, quick shot, tough shot taker, tough shot maker, just that kind of build. And Ja'Kai Howard, this could age really badly. But from what I've seen videos of their training camp. I've seen videos of him in high school. He seems like he's only an athlete, much like Bronny James, who they kind of just lack the skill of NBA. They lack the feel of the game. They're kind of just athletes who can run fast, jump high, and dunk the ball. We'll see. Maybe he proves me wrong. I hope he proves me wrong. And by no means am I wishing either of these two freshmen to have a bad year. I hope they prove me wrong. I'm just saying realistically, that's kind of what I expect out of these 5 stars. I don't expect much production. And then with them losing Jalen Williams, who was their second or third best scorer, they lost all their guards. It's going to be rough to bring in 2 brand new guards and kind of acclimate them into this team. So, yeah, just the notes I put, no elite scorers. They have a decent incoming class. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of these 5 stars. And the reason they have a C and not any lower is because they kept Janai Broom. He didn't go to the NBA draft. I'm not the highest on Janai Broom. I'll probably talk about that in my next video. But that is my ranking for Auburn. And because of that, they are going in the C tier, just kind of right in the middle. I honestly, maybe I should have put a C- because they did, in my opinion, they got a little worse. But it's whatever. So that puts us to our next team, which is Florida. So their incoming players, they got Elijah Martin, Ruben Shenyelu, maybe is how you pronounce that, and then Sam Alexis. Freshmen, they brought in Isaiah Brown and Oliver Rue, don't know how to pronounce his last name either. A lot of last names I got to learn this year, as you can tell. Pretty much all of their transfers coming in, I put as impact players. You have Elijah Martin, Ruben Shenyelu, and then Sam Alexis. Those are all incoming transfers. And just so you guys know, if they have a number next to their name, that's because they're a freshman. That is their freshman star rating. Just so you guys know that. They also lost Zion Pullen because he graduated. I'm jumping ahead. So those were their transfers. Those were their freshmen, and those were their impact players, in my opinion, that they're bringing in. So guys they lost is Alex Simichik, Julian Rishwain, and then Riley Kugel, and then like I just mentioned, Zion Pullen graduated. I put Zion Pullen as one of their impact players that they lost because he was their second leading scorer, I believe, or maybe their first leading scorer. He was like top 10 in scoring in all of SEC. And then also Riley Kugel was a big impact player for them as well. So those are their 2 impact players that they lost. And for that reason, I'm giving them a B-. So I'm going to move them up to the B- on this tier ranking. And my reason for that is just because they replaced the guys they lost with better incoming transfers. In my opinion, the guys that transferred out, they replaced with better incoming players. Their freshman class isn't really that strong. They only have 2 players, and it's just a 4 and a 3-star. And then losing Pullen sucks, but they also were able to keep Walter Clayton, which was their leading scorer, another guy who's top 10 in SEC scoring. So, I mean, really not that bad of an offseason. I really love their transfer class. I don't like their freshman class. That's kind of the main thing. So, next team we have is Georgia. This is honestly one of my favorite. Sorry, I keep hitting my mic. That's not good. One of my favorite teams so far, just off-season wise. Guys they brought in is Tyron Lawrence, R.G. Godfrey, Dakota LeFou, Justin Abson, Deshane Montgomery, and freshman they brought in is Asa Newell, Santos Cyril, Savo Dreschick, and then Jordan Key. Impact players I put is Tyron Lawrence, R.J. Godfrey, and then I even put Asa Newell as well, just because they're kind of lacking in that guard position. Those are my impact players for players that are coming into the team. I think Santos Cyril could also be a really good player. He's super big body, super strong, coming out of OTE. But I'm not a big fan of guys coming out of OTE. The only player that came out of OTE that was really good is Rob Dillingham. Another guy that's coming out of it is Ja'Kai Howard. That's another reason I'm not too high on him. But we'll see. You never know. We'll see. But yeah, Tyron Lawrence, R.J. Godfrey, I already mentioned them, or Godfrey. Those are going to be the impact players coming in, as well as Asa Newell. So players they lost is R.J. Melendez, Jabari Abdur-Rahim, Frank Anselm Ibe, Mari Jordan, Justin Hill, and then Jalen DeLoach. And then graduated was R.J. Sunahara, Russell Tachua, and then Noah Thomason. Players they lost that were impact players was just R.J. Melendez and Jabari Abdur-Rahim. Those were just transfer guys that left, and they were kind of impact players last season. I don't think they're the biggest loss, as some people may be looking at it, but nonetheless, they lost a lot of players, especially for keeping the same coach they have. and they had a good amount of guys transfer or graduate. So I ended up giving them a B plus. They're right below the A. And just in terms of my notes, I just said they made really big improvements in the portal. They have a big incoming portal class, and their freshmen are also really good. They're the only thing I'm just kind of just not the highest on them is that they're just lacking a high volume score. That's the only reason they're not in that A category. But a B plus, I could pretty much put them at an A minus. I might convince myself into it right now, but as of now, they are going to be in that B plus category. I'm going to put them ahead of Florida, just because. Okay, so next team we have Kentucky. This is another one of those, like I mentioned, big offseason movement teams because they lost their coach. So a lot of players left, a lot of players came in. So players they brought in: Amari Williams, Otega Owe, Brandon Garrison, Andrew Carr, Lamont Butler, Kobe Brea, Kerr Kriisa, Jackson Robinson, and Ansley Almanor. Those are all guys that transferred in. Freshman class is Travis Perry and Trent Noah. So, in my opinion, they have a lot of incoming impact players. They have Amari Wilson, Otega Owe, Brandon Garrison, and Jackson Robinson are all guys that I put down as impact players coming in. So, the freshman class is decent. Another 4-star and 3-star, just a 2-player class, very similar to Florida. Guys they lost was Zvonimir Visic, Adu Thiero, Ugana Nyenso, DJ Wagner, Jordan Burks, Joey Hart, and Aaron Bradshaw. I put guys they lost that were impact players was Adu Thiero and DJ Wagner. I know I didn't put either of them as impact players for Arkansas, but because Adu Thiero had a very big role with Kentucky last year, DJ Wagner had a big role coming off the bench, even though he didn't have the hottest year. Aaron Bradshaw was all right, but he was just a freshman. I don't remember where he went, but he went somewhere. He's not on the team anymore. I know that for a fact. And then guys they ended up losing in graduation was Reed Shepard, Rob Dillingham, Justin Edwards, Antonio Reeves, and Trey Mitchell, with impact guys that they lost being Reed Shepard, Rob Dillingham, and Antonio Reeves. Those are some really big names they lost. Those 3 right there. They lost their top 3 leading scorers, I believe. I believe that's their top 3 leading scorers. Their starting big man. They lost a lot. Obviously, they also lost their coach. I ended up giving them a B plus. I really like the guys they brought in. I just don't like the fact that they can't control this. They lost a lot of guys to graduation / the NBA. In terms of guys that transferred out, they didn't really lose too many like super good players. They did lose obviously impact players, just not super good players in that transfer portal out. Just some notes I put is it's a completely new team. Their freshman class isn't the greatest. That's another reason they're not in that A category. But they do have really good transfers, and that's the reason they have a B+. So I'm going to bring in Kentucky. I don't like their offseason as much as Georgia, but I like them more than Florida. Moving on to the next team, we have LSU. So players they brought in was Cam Carter, Jordan Sears, and DeG Bailey. They also brought in Victorious Miller, Curtis Givens, and Robert Miller III. Impact player, I just put Cam Carter. The other guys aren't the greatest in terms of just straight up impact. Jordan Sears is good. But I'm not saying these guys are bad by any means. I just don't think they're going to be like star players. Victorious Miller, I love his game. I've watched some of his high school film, not a lot, so I can't really give a whole breakdown on him. But they do have 3 4-stars, which I think they're all kind of higher 4-stars too, especially Victorious Miller. But in terms of players, those were the impact players, Cam Carter, and I put Victorious Miller as well, just because of their lack of guard play. So players they lost was Carlos Stewart, Mwani Wilkinson, Jordan Wright. Okay, hold on, let me restart. Carlos Stewart, Mwani Wilkinson are all transfers out. Graduated players is Jordan Wright, Will Baker, and Jalen Cook. They lost Jordan Wright and Jalen Cook had big impact. Those were their impact players I put as leaving to graduation. So I gave them a B-. They're on the lower side of B. I might even drop them. I'm going to drop them down to C. Just because they have a good freshman class. They didn't bring in that many good players considering the players they lost. They lost a lot of players leaving. They didn't bring in the best players coming in. So LSU is going to drop down to that C tier. I will put them ahead of Auburn, though. Moving on to Mississippi State. As you can see, I'm trying to move through these quick because I think I've been recording for a good 20 minutes now. So we got to get a move on. Mississippi State, they brought in Jeremy Fumina, Riley Kugel, RJ Melendez, Claudel Harris, Michael Nwako, and then Kanye Clary. Impact players I said they brought in was Riley Kugel and RJ Melendez. I believe Riley is from Florida, if I'm not mistaken, and then RJ Melendez is from Georgia. They were both impact guys that I had leaving both of those teams. Let me check on Riley Kugel. I'm pretty sure he's from Florida. Yeah, he is. He's from Florida. So Mississippi brought in a couple of in-conference transfers, which is, that's it's whatever. For freshmen they brought in Delquan Warren and then Eric Payman Jr. Not the best freshman incoming class. Delquan Warren is a good player, but he's only a 4-star. But yeah, impact players, like I said, was just Riley Kugel and RJ Melendez. Out guys, so guys that they lost was Andrew Taylor, Trey Fort III, Jaquan Scott, and then Shaquille Moore. Those are all transfer outs. I didn't have any of them down as impact players, but guys they lost to graduation was Tolu Smith III, DJ Jeffries, Deshaun Davis, and Jimmy Bell Jr. For guys that they lost in graduation, I did put Tolu Smith as one of their impact guys they lost. I believe he's with the Lakers now. I'm not sure. And then Jimmy Bell Jr. was another one of their leading scorers, so I put those guys as impact losses, although the impact losses really aren't that bad. I gave them a C+ just because, yes, they didn't really lose that much except for Tolu Smith. I think that actually is a pretty big loss in terms of like their, he was I think he was a all defensive first team guy. I think he was all defensive first team, if not defensive second team, if they even have that. I don't know. They didn't lose much, but they didn't really gain much either. The fact that they do keep Josh Hubbard and Cameron Matthews, that's the main reason they have a C+. I love Cameron Matthews. He's probably going to be my pick for Defensive Player of the Year. I wanted him last year, but he didn't get it. Josh Hubbard was one of the biggest freshmen. I think he was an all-freshman first team. So they did keep really good players, which is why they're at that C+ instead of falling. But the loss of Tolu Smith and the fact that they didn't bring in super high-volume scorers, they didn't bring any super impact defensive players, I just put them at a C+. Sorry, Mississippi State fans, if that hurts your feelings. That's just my opinion. Next team is Ole Miss. Okay, so guys they brought in was Javon Benson, Sean Padula, Davin Barnes, Dre Davis, Malik Dia, and then Mikael Brown-Jones. And those are guys that transferred in. I put Malik Dia and then Mikael Brown-Jones as impact players, so those of you Ole Miss fans, look out for them in your upcoming games. I am very excited. We do have a bunch of what is the word? I'll just talk about that at the end of the video if you guys want to listen to it. And then freshmen, they brought in John Bull and then Eduardo Kalafke. I think John Bull is also another OTE guy. I put him down as an impact player just because they are kind of lacking that big man position, so I put him there. But he is only a 4-star. I wouldn't, like I said, I'm putting him at an impact position, but I would not expect too much out of him until like the second half of the season. In terms of guys they lost Cameron Barnes, Musa Cisse, I think is how you pronounce his last name, Mosa Kisse, I don't know, Brandon Murray, Austin Nunez, and then Rashad Marshall, Malik Edwin, and then Jacob Gazzo. Those are all transfer outs. Guys I put down as impact players is the Musa Cisse guy I was talking about, Rashad Marshall. Those are both my impact players for transfers out. They also lost Alan Flanagan, Jamarian Sharp, and Cole McGrath. Alan Flanagan I put down as an impact loss just because he was one of their best perimeter defenders, one of their best scorers last year. I put him down as my most improved player last year, or I think he might have been the third option for that. I'm not sure. But he was amazing for them last year on both sides of the basketball. I gave them a B-, but I'm kind of looking at it now. I don't know if I agree with that. Malik Dia and then Mikael Brown-Jones are really good guys they brought in. But because they lost Alan Flanagan, I mean, they still have a really good team. Do I want to move them to a C+? Who else did I put at C+? You know what? I'm going to put them at a C+, just because I'm looking at these other teams, and I don't think they did much different than what these other teams did. I'll put them at a C+ as well. They kept their important players. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember his name. They're on the graphic I put up right now. They're on that graphic. And they had a decent transfer class, but they also lost a lot of players. So I'm going to go ahead and put them into that C class as well. I'm trying to see. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure I did it fair and actually put enough people in the D category. Okay. I do have people in the D category. I just wanted to make sure it's not all just the C category. Okay, what team are we on? Missouri. Sorry. Okay. Players they brought in: Mark Mitchell, Tony Perkins, Jacob Cruz, Marquez Warwick, and then Josh Gray. I believe Josh Gray is from another SEC team. I think. I could be tripping. I could be wrong. I think I'm wrong. Anyways. So guys I put down as impact players is Mark Mitchell. I love Mark Mitchell's game. Tony Perkins and then Marquez Warwick. I put them all as impact players that transferred in. Players that they brought in terms of freshmen is Anor Boateng, Marcus Allen, Peyton Marshall, Trent Burns, and then T.O. Barrett. It's a pretty good incoming class. 4 4-stars actually, and then 1 3-star. If they can keep them on the team and develop them for the next couple of years, I do really like this freshman class. I don't think any of them are going to make an immediate impact. I do like Anor Boateng, but I just don't think he's going to come in and be super impactful just yet. So guys that they ended up losing was Jesus, I think Carvalero Martin. Sorry. John Tonje. These names are beating me up. They lost Jordan Butler, they lost Kurt Lewis, and they lost Caleb Brown, who was brother of Kobe Brown, who plays for the Clippers. I love Kobe Brown. I didn't watch much of Caleb Brown last year. I think he was a freshman last year. Anyways, they also lost Sean East to graduation, Nick Honor, Caleb Grill, Noah Carter, and Connor Vanover. They lost all those guys to graduation. Impact players that they lost, I put Jordan Butler in the transfer portal, and then Sean East II, who was their leading scorer. I think he was top 5 in SEC scoring last year. And then Connor Vanover is their big man who's been there for a while. Nick Honor is just like I think of him as like a legacy player. He played for there, I think, a couple years, 2 or 3 years. I know he transferred in from somewhere. I just didn't think he was it's whatever. I put Missouri's grade as an A because they went from being literally the last team, like the worst team in the SEC last year. They didn't win a single conference game. So I think they went, what is that, like 0-20? Is that how many conference games they play? 0-20, something like that. 0-16. I don't know. They lost a lot of games last year in conference play. And then... But yeah, so I mean, they did end up losing Sean East II, who, like I said, top 5 in SEC scoring last year. They lost Connor Vanover. Isn't much of a scorer, but he is their big man on that team. Jordan Butler was another scorer that they lost, but their freshman class and their portal class are very, very, very good. Like I said, I love Mark Mitchell. I love Tony Perkins. I love Marquez Warwick. Those are all guys I'm very big fans of, and I expect them to be super impactful for this Missouri team. Their freshman class, like I said, they're not going to be immediately impactful, but at the end of this season and the next couple of seasons, if they can keep them, they are going to be very big impact players for this team. So like I said, I'm giving Missouri an A just because of the bounce back that they had from last year. Next team is Oklahoma. I'm going to go ahead and say this. I don't like Oklahoma's season. In fact, I'm going to change their grade. You guys don't know what their grade was previously, but I did just change it. Players they brought in: Duke Miles, Bryson Gooden, Glenn Taylor Jr., Jaden Jones, Kobe Elvis, and Muhammad Wag. I think Muhammad Wag came from... I recognize that name. What team did he play for? Did he play for... I know that name. Sorry, I have to find this because, Wagyu. Maybe I think I'm out of it right now. I'm not going to lie. I know I recognize that name, but I don't know what team he played for. That's bad. What team did he play for? This is really bad for the video. I'm making the video way longer than it needs to be. Oh, is that Mo Wag from Alabama? I think that is. I don't know. Anyways, that's a player that they brought in. In terms of incoming transfers that are impact players, I only put Duke Miles. I'm not a big fan of this transfer class. And freshman class that they brought in was Jeremiah Fears, Cole Atak, Dayton Forsyth, and then Jeff Nwakwo. The only player I like out of this freshman class is Jeremiah Fears. Like I said, I don't think he's going to be an impact player. So they really only brought in one impact player. And then players that they lost was Otega Owe, which I recognize that name. He transferred to another team within the SEC. Maybe Georgia? I think Georgia maybe. But they also lost John Hugley. They lost Javian McCollum. They lost Milos Uzan, and then Caden Cooper. They also lost to the transfer portal. And the guys they lost to graduation is going to be Latrey Darthard and then Rivaldo Soares. So they lost a lot of really good players. I think with them and Texas, with them moving into the SEC, I think they did end up losing a lot of players for that reason. Oh my gosh, I got to stop hitting my mic. I'm not 100% sure that's the reason why they lost these guys, but I would like to think that's why. So I went ahead and gave them a D minus. I really don't like Oklahoma. I think they're going to have a pretty subpar season this year. But so I put them at a D minus. They lost a lot of really good players, and like I said, they only really brought in one impact player, being Duke Miles. Their freshman class is all right, but I only really like one player out of that class. So I'm gonna go ahead and move them into they're gonna be the very first D team on my list. Moving on, we have South Carolina. Players they brought in was Jordan Butler. I believe he's from Missouri, I think. Jamari Thomas and Nick Pringle from Alabama. I put impact players as Jordan Butler and Nick Pringle. They're going to be impact transfers. I don't think they're going to be super high scores, but they are going to impact this team's ability to win. They also got Cam Scott and Aku Frederico as freshmen. I'm not a big fan of this freshman class either, just an all right average freshman class. So like I said, the impact players are going to be Jordan Butler and Nick Pringle. Players that they lost is Josh Gray, which is another guy transferred. Maybe he's the one I saw go to Missouri or Mississippi State or Georgia, one of those two. They lost Josh Gray. They lost Abrima Deba, and then they also lost Michi Johnson, which is a really big loss. He went back to Ohio State, which is where he's from. Michi Johnson was their leading scorer. I want to say he was top 10 in SEC scoring as well. Not 100% sure, but I know he's a bucket. Other guys they lost was B.J. Mack, Talon Cooper, Stephen Clark, and Abrima Deba. They lost a lot of good players as well. With graduation, they lost B.J. Mack, which is an impact loss. And Talon Cooper is also an impact loss, another one of their leading scorers. And like I said, Michi Johnson is an impact loss as well in the portal. So I don't know if I already gave my grade. I gave them a D+, because they brought in a couple of impact players, but they lost a lot of their elite scorers, and they didn't really bring in anyone who's an elite scorer. They do still have, oh my gosh, I cannot remember his name right now. Colin Murray Boyles. They kept him, which is, him not going to the NBA is amazing. I do expect a really big sophomore season from him. I expect him to be one of, if not their best player for South Carolina this year. Those of you who don't know, he's kind of similar to I call him like an athletic Draymond Green. They have similar play styles, big body playmakers, defensive menaces. I love both those guys, except for Draymond Green's, attitude. But, they lost their 3 top scorers from the last season, which is just a big loss. They have a decent portal, like I said, but they're a D+. All right, so my phone died in the middle of recording, so I checked back. I think I left off with South Carolina. I think I was just saying that they lost the top 3 scorers from the previous season, and they had a decent portal, which is why I gave them that D+ grade. They lost a lot of players as well. I just didn't like their off season. Tennessee. So Tennessee brought in guys. I talked a lot about Tennessee and it got cut out. They brought in Felix Okpara. They brought in Darlington DeBar, Igor Milicic, and then Chaz Lanier. Those are guys they brought into the transfer portal. Felix Okpara, Darlington DeBar, and then Chaz Lanier are all going to be their impact transfers that they brought in. Chaz Lanier being the second best player in this entire transfer class. And then the freshman they brought in was Bishop Boswell. He's just a 4-star, is all right. They only brought in one freshman, which I'm not the biggest fan of in terms of development. Guys they lost was Jonas Adu, Toby Awaka, DJ Jefferson, Freddie DeLeon. Those are all transfers that left. And then graduated players / NBA players is Dalton Connect, Josiah Jordan James, Santiago Vescovi, and then Colin Coyne. Guys that I put as impacts, which there's a lot of impact left. Guys that left is Jonas Adu, Toby Awaka, DJ Jefferson, Freddie DeLeon, Dalton Connect, and then Josiah Jordan James. Those are all guys that I put as impact leavers. So I went ahead and gave Tennessee a B-, just because they did end up bringing in a guy that could end up replacing Dalton Connect's productivity. They still have Zakai Ziegler, but they did end up losing a lot of their defensive guys. So they lost Dalton Connect, like I said, not a defensive guy, but he was number 1 in SEC scoring, SEC Player of the Year. He was in running. I think he's either 2nd or 3rd for just National Player of the Year. Big loss for them. They also ended up losing Jonas Adu, who was in running for Defensive Player of the Year, and he was also all defensive first team for the SEC. Toby Waka, another good defender, another good just big guy on their team. They lost DJ Jefferson, Freddie DeLeon, and Josiah Jordan James are more scores that they also lost. So I gave them a B- because they're subpar freshman class. Only one guy they brought in I'm just not a big fan of. They do have a really great portal class, but they also lost a lot, and I mean a lot of impact players. So they are at that B spot. So moving on, we have Texas. So for Texas, they ended up getting in Tremont Mark from Arkansas, like I mentioned, an amazing score. They got in Arthur Kaluma, Malik Presley, Jordan Pope, which I believe, I know that name is from LSU. They got in, no, it's not. I recognize the name. I don't know why. Jason Kent, Julian, Larry. Those are all guys they brought in from the portal. Impact transfers that they brought in is going to be Tremont Mark, Arthur Kaluma, Jordan Pope, and Jason Kent. And then they also brought in Trey Johnson, who was one of the, I think, I want to say top 5 freshmen in this class. They brought in Nick Cody and then Jamie Vincent. So impact players they brought in. I'm going to go ahead and put Trey Johnson just because he is so high in this freshman class. And then players that they lost is going to be Dylan Mitchell, Tyrese Hunter, Chris Johnson, and Alex Anamekwe. Is going to be guys that they lost in the portal. Guys that they lost to graduation / NBA is going to be Max Abmas, Dylan Disu, and then Brock Cunningham. Those are all guys. Impact players that they lost is going to be Dylan Mitchell, Tyrese Hunter, Chris Johnson, and then impact guys that they lost to graduation is going to be Max Abmas and Dylan Disu. I also gave them just a regular C. I might even move them to a C- because I like their offseason worse, or I like it less than Auburn. So I'm gonna go ahead and move them to the back of C. And like I said, they just lost a lot of production. They have a decent incoming class, and then Trey Johnson is the main reason that they're not in the D category. If they didn't get Trey Johnson, they would be in the D category, in my opinion. Tremont Mark is also another really good. Texas fans, you guys are going to love him if you guys don't love him already. Final 2 teams, we have Texas A&M. Guys they brought in is C.J. Wilker, Pharrell Payne, and Zurich Phelps. Impact players that they brought in from the portal is going to be Pharrell Payne and then just Zurich Phelps. The freshman they brought in is Andre Mills and George Turkson, both 4-stars, so not the greatest incoming class. But like I said, these are guys that you can develop to be big impact players for this team. Guys that ended up losing is Bryce Lindsey, Tyler Ringgold, Andre Gordon, Brandon White, and then Julius Marble. I put Julius Marble as the only impact player that they lost in the portal. And then other guys they lost to graduation / NBA is going to be Tyrese Radford, Wildens Levesque, and then Eli Lawrence. I put Tyrese Radford as the only impact guy they lost to graduation. So in terms of guys that they lost that are impact players is going to be Julius Marble and Tyrese Radford. So overall, they had a pretty good offseason just in terms of their ability to keep the same roster. They kept Wade Taylor the 4th. I think they still have Coleman the 3rd or maybe Coleman the 2nd. Coleman the 3rd, I think. So pretty much the same roster as last year, and they had a pretty good season last year. And they got some decent transfers in, so I went ahead and put them in that B-, with our final team being Vanderbilt. I don't know. Sorry, Vanderbilt, you guys suck. You guys suck. That's all I can really say. They're going to be the worst team this year. Guys they brought in is Kajani Wright, AJ Hogger, Tyler Nickel, MJ Collins, Chris Mannon, Jason Edwards, Grant Huffman, Jalen Carey, Devin McLaughlin, and then Alex Hemingway. And like I said, teams that lost coaches, they're going to have big turnaround. They ended up firing. I can't remember his name either. Put me in front of the camera. I cannot remember anybody's name. Does it start with a V? I don't know. That sucks. I forgot his name, but I promise you I know his name. Guys that they ended up... so impact players that they brought in from the portal is going to be AJ Hoggard and Jason Edwards. Those are the only transfer guys that I put as impact players. I didn't put any of their freshmen because they're both 3-star. They're two freshmen or 3-stars. It's Tyler Tanner and then Karis Bilal. Both 3-stars. I don't like that class at all. Players that they lost is going to be Vin Allen Lubin, Isaiah West, Carter Lane, Colin Smith, Tyron Lawrence, Malik Presley, which I think both those guys went to a team in conference. Jason Rivera Torres, Paul Lewis, and Lee Dort. Impact players that they lost in the portal is going to be Vin Allen Lubin and Tyron Lawrence. Here's the big hitter for them. They lost Ezra Mignon. I believe he ran out of eligibility or he's in the league, the NBA. But the guys they lost to graduation is going to be Ezra Mignon, Evan Taylor, and Cassos Comateros. So just once again, guys that they lost that were impact players is Vin Allen Lubin, Tyron Lawrence, Ezra Mignon, Evan Taylor. Ezra Mignon was their leading scorer last year. I think Evan Taylor might have been the second leading scorer. Maybe it was Tyron Lawrence. They lost a lot of their good scorers. I gave them an F+. They're going to be the only F team because they sucked last year. They're going to suck this year. The only reason they have a plus is because they do have a new coach. Maybe that rejuvenates the locker room. I don't know. They're going to be the worst team in the SEC. Vanderbilt, I'm sorry. We saved the worst for last. Sorry, Vanderbilt fans. The next episode is going to be... I'm going to be ranking... I'm going to give you my predictions for the tier rank, I guess just the rankings for the SEC. I'm going to put my 1 through 16, I'm going to provide my opinion for the best teams in the SEC. And I will also be predicting my awards, including, Player of the Year. We got Defensive Player of the Year. I'm going to be doing all SEC teams, all SEC defensive teams, Freshman of the Year. I'm going to even be doing my my personal awards, which is going to be Most Improved Player, and then also Newcomer of the Year, which is going to be transfers into the SEC. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully no teams are too mad. Sorry, South Carolina, OU, and Vanderbilt. I'm sorry, you guys' teams are not going to be very good. Yeah, that's the end of this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. It was a little bit longer than I wanted, but I tried to keep it quick. I'm sorry. I'll see you guys in the next one.